this exciting piece of information now. We take you to Accra in Ghana, where global leaders convened virtually for the launch of the Pan-African Heritage World Museum. It's one of the important projects of cultural and historical significance of our time. To help us expand more on the vision of the museum, we speak to Pan-Africanist Kojo Yankah, who's the brains behind the project. A very good afternoon to you, and thank you very much for joining us. If you could perhaps just take us to the moment that this was conceptualized before becoming a reality. What was the big idea?
Well, this has been a long journey because of my own experiences, having been chairman of the Pan-African Historical Theatre Festival, having also been chairman of the Ghana Heritage Conservation Trust, also having traveled around the world and having participated in a lot of Pan-African activities. My realization has been that Africans should get together. Africans should know and understand each other. Africans, both on the continent and those in the diaspora, should unite. That is the only way in which people of African descent can be proud of themselves and then reduce the kind of complex that some of us have. And I have believed this for over 20 years. I wrote my book From Jamestown to Jamestown to link the continent of Africa to the diaspora. And so this has been part of the passion I've been working with over the years. When I established the African University College of Communications in Ghana, the idea was to train a corps of journalists, writers, public relations officers, people who could communicate well Africa. Our difficulty has been not knowing ourselves. And sometimes when you hear black on black or Africans on Africans, you do not understand. But there is a historical reason. We have been divided for too long. We have not understood each other. Our borders were created without our consent, and we are living with it, and we are blaming each other. It is important to know the historical landmarks of the African, and adequate research shows clearly that civilization started in Africa. Creation of man started in Africa. So why don't we take comfort in these historical truths and learn that we have a rich heritage to get together, to know ourselves more. Just forget about our differences and just remember that we have one heritage and therefore we have one destiny. Once we do that, Africans will be prouder than anybody else on the continent, particularly having regard to the rich mineral resources that we have.
One heritage, one destiny. It would sound like a restoration project of sorts, quite an ambitious project as well. We are a very diverse people, and that is what makes us so unique and should bring us together. How exactly will the Pan-African Heritage World Museum tell all these different stories, these different histories, and bring it together?
Right. We have a narrative. So what we've done, we brought a group of African scholars together. There are about 30 of them now. We are still expanding, but there are 30 of them who form the academic council of the museum project and who are validating the narrative, because most of them are scholars who have written extensively and have done research to confirm the narrative that we're going to show from creation to today. It's a long story, but we need to tell our own story. We hear of stories about slavery, about colonization, and you'll find that most of them are written by Europeans who enslaved us. So how can that be our story? So we have put together this core of academics and scholars who have researched into it, published on it, and telling the story. So it is that storyline that we're going to use in the museum to bring together the history of Africa, the cultures of Africa, the ideals of Africa, the old science of Africa, the technology the arts, the crafts, the kind of indigenous knowledge that we had that was destroyed and kept hidden. All our publications that were destroyed, we are bringing them all back. So a whole lot has already begun, and we are collecting a lot of stories, a lot of artifacts, all getting ready for this museum.
That sounds like such a marvelous plan, and the projected completion date is 2022. Talk to someone who says there's no place for history on the continent. We need to look forward. We need to take advantage of all the technological developments that are taking place and build in terms of the economies of the continent. We cannot afford to get sentimental.
That is very true. So we need to go to work. We've been talking for too long. So what we have done, we've already got our site in Ghana. We are preparing the site. We've got Academic Council. We have an international board of trustees from all over Africa, from the diaspora, who are the administrators of this whole project. And we have started fundraising. The government of Ghana has promised so much support. So all being well, we will break the ground before the end of this year, and then construction will start as soon as we break the ground. And we are giving ourselves 2 years, according to the architects. If we have our funds together, we should be able to finish the project by 2022, end of 2022. This is a project that's going to cost about $30 million. We do not think that is insurmountable. We believe that the kind of message that we've taken around, and the kind of reception and the response that the project has got, we're going to make it possible and realizable in 2022.
I'd like us to expand on the response that you have gotten. Quite curious what the response has been like. I think you think of a number of museums the world over that are holding on to artifacts from the African continent, driving so much in terms of their economies. People flying from all over the world to see some of those artifacts. Just how much or just how big of an appreciation do you think we as Africans have for the kind of project that you are trying to bring to life?
Yes, I know the African continent. I have visited quite a number of museums. Of course, they tell the histories of the countries where they are. Here is probably the first time we are bringing our stories together. And therefore, we got first the endorsement from the African Union, which was great. We also got the endorsement from UNESCO. We've got endorsement from the Association of African Universities. We have got endorsement from NAACP in America and a number of organizations in the Caribbean and in the US. We have links in Haiti. We have links in Bali. We have links in Brazil, South America. We are trying even to link up with a group in India and Turkey who are of African origin, to all bring their cultures together, and the response is fantastic. So it is something that we can see coming, and I know that a lot of artifacts that were stolen from Africa and sent to Europe, with time will be brought back, because we have a group in UK and Europe, which is also canvassing for all these artifacts that were stolen to be brought back. So we are looking at bringing everything back together. Now, the museum is just the iconic structure there with a lot of history and culture and so on. But around it, external to the museum, there is a garden of sculptures. The sculptures are going to be images of Africans from all over the continent and beyond, and the diaspora, who virtually have been lost to history, and we should keep them. We should honor them and immortalize them. So we are going to have a huge garden of sculptures. Just this morning, somebody brought to my attention some of the heroes from South Africa, Hugh Masekela and others, and people said, oh, since they died, we haven't heard much of that. I said, listen, here is Hugh Masekela who liked heritage, and I know about his Heritage Foundation. He's going to give him space, in that garden of sculptures. Apart from that, we have another Palace of Kingdoms, African kingdoms, that really stood the test of time and even opposed colonialism, resisted oppression, and so on. Some really struggled to maintain their dignity and to maintain themselves as custodians of our culture. We are going to have a whole space for African kingdoms so that our youth will learn that if we had not had kingdoms like these, if we had not had structures, if we had not had people who were resisting oppression, colonization, and suppression, we probably wouldn't be here as a continent, because for a long time, historically, some people have been busy, engaged in trying to depopulate Africa or take over Africa and make it their own. But we've got people who resisted. We should honor them. So we have a whole space for African kingdoms. We have a space for sculptures, and then we have space for herbal plant farm. We have a lot of herbal plants in Africa, which we have not exploited.
Uncle Kojo, unfortunately, that's all we have time for this afternoon, but it's been a great pleasure hearing about the vision and the plans for the Pan-African World Heritage Museum, and anyone interested can head on over to the website. In South Africa, we say Magwande, and thank you very much for your time. Uncle Kojo Yankah, Pan-Africanist and the brainchild behind the Pan-African World Heritage Museum.